Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This month's video is going to be my top 10 books of 2025. I also think this may be my last video of the year. I've completed my goal of filming and posting a video every month. I've really enjoyed it, so I might carry on next year. I'm not 100% sure, but let's jump into this video of my top 10 reads of 2025. Starting with an absolute god tier book. This, 6 stars, Face Off by Chelsea Curto. I absolutely adored this book. It follows Emmy and Maverick. Emmy is about to be the first female player in the NHL, and Maverick is the captain of the team she's joining. He immediately fancies her, but they get off on the wrong foot. Then one night they fall into bed together, and then they win their match. So the superstition begins that they're going to need to fall into bed before every single game in order to win. And watching the love blossom between these two was just absolutely incredible. It was written so well, and this whole series is an absolute 5-6 star series for me. One thing I absolutely adored about this book was it made me feel the same giddy feelings and experiences that I felt when I read The Fake Out by Stephanie Archer and Play Along by Liz Tomfordy, which is also going to be in this top 10. But this book was just incredible. It was one of my absolute favourite reads of the year. I have put it in the #1 spot. I think I did love it that much. It was just incredible, and I wish that I could wipe my memory to go and reread this. I really loved the whole Friends with Benefits aspect because I haven't really read a Friends with Benefits book in quite some time, and this was just so refreshing. The whole sneaking around and the sleepovers in the hotels and everything, it just made it really fun and kind of gave it another layer to most romance books that I've read recently. And I loved how Maverick was more of the kind of golden retriever sunshiny character, but he was so damn hot. The fight scene, if you know, you know. I love the team as a whole. They were just so sweet. And the girls, all of their female friendships and the whole team and everybody together, the family aspect and friendships really reminded me of Joan McMahone's First in the City series, which I absolutely adore, and it really gave me that vibe. So this one, absolutely immaculate read. I also loved how the male main characters' emotions were explored throughout this series, but especially in this one, with Maverick just wanting to be chosen and loved. It broke my heart for him, but it was so refreshing to see, and this is just a god tier series. If you've not read the DC Stars series by Chelsea Curto, add it to your TBR for 2026. 2025 was the year that I fell in love with sports romances, so book #2 is Play Along by Liz Tomfordy. If you've not read this series yet, what are you doing? You need to read it. This book was just incredible. The feeling of reading it, like, I just knew from the first page it was going to be a 6-star read. I absolutely adored it. So this one follows Isaiah and Kennedy, who get drunkenly married in Vegas, but decide to stay married so that Kennedy can get a new job, get a promotion, and so that Isaiah can try and convince the girl that he's been in love with for years to give him a real chance. So I'm a pretty slow reader, and when I'm reading, I find that I kind of need to take breaks. I need to have a little scroll because I can't stay focused for that long. Not with this book. This book, I sat all evening, did not look at my phone once, and I managed to read 171 pages in one sitting. That's unheard of for me. I normally read maybe 100 pages a day if it's a good day. I read 171 in a couple of hours. This book had some kind of crack in it. I could not put it down, and I was excited all day to get home and read it in the evening. That is how much I loved this book. One thing I absolutely love about this series is that there is so much more to the plot than just the romance. There's the overriding kind of story of all of the couples, the friendships, their jobs, the sports, everything adds to it, and it makes it so much more than just a romance book. It actually makes the characters feel so alive and makes you feel like you're in the story, and I just appreciate that so much in a romance book. I also love when a book can make me cry, not from like some big traumatic event, but just the sweet little moments. Like, this book was just sprinkled with the most adorable moments. I absolutely adore Isaiah. I had such a hard time choosing who my favourite book boyfriend in this series was. I think it's Kai, but Isaiah is a very close second, if not joint first. I absolutely adored Isaiah and Kennedy together. Their entire friendship and blossoming relationship was just so beautiful to read, and there were so many amazing tropes in this book. I honestly cannot explain the just magical feeling I had when reading this. It made me so happy to be a romance reader because not many books hit like this, but this one was just incredible. Then closely behind, we have Caught Up. So I think Kai is my favourite MMC, and I just adore these two as a couple, but I think I may have enjoyed the experience of reading Play Along a little bit better. There was just something so magical about reading it. Not to say that I didn't love this book. This book is one of my all-time favourite books. This was a reread. I already read this when it first came out. I started the series with this book, so I have now finished the series with this book because I ended up reading Caught Up, Play Along, Rewind It Back, then going back this year and reading Mile High and The Right Move. And then I finished it off with this one so that I could tab it because I had read it on my Kindle. And I went to meet Liz at the beginning of November, and she noticed that this one had not been tabbed, and I had promised her I was going to read it and I was going to tab it. So I literally started the day after meeting her, absolutely adored it. From the first page, I just remembered everything and I knew it was going to be a 6-star read. But what I absolutely loved about the reread was I had remembered a lot of the big moments. There were so many small little moments I'd completely forgotten about, and it honestly felt like the first time reading it. And it just made it even more special because I knew what was waiting for me at the end, and I just absolutely adore this couple and Max, and how they all interact just honestly fills my heart with so much joy. I love this book. One thing that I really love about this book is that it's Miller who is the kind of detached character, and you can really see why Liz says that she is one of her favourite characters to write, because she is so wild and kind of anything goes. She didn't have to put her in this box, she could kind of just write her as this wild, free character, and it just really shows. And I absolutely love her paired with Kai and how different they are, but how perfectly they work together. Another thing which is an absolute testament to Liz's writing is how many times this book made me cry. I knew what was going to happen. I knew when Miller left. I knew that Max was going to call her mum. I knew all of these moments, and yet I still sobbed my heart out because of the writing and the way it made me feel those emotions and made me feel like I was in that story. Liz, you did a masterpiece with this book. So next up is, surprise, surprise, another sports romance. This one is Gloves Off by Stephanie Archer. So this one follows Alexi, who is the hockey team's enforcer, and Georgia, who is the team doctor. These two hate each other. There was a misunderstanding years ago. They cannot stand each other. Alexi thinks Georgia's a spoiled brat. Georgia thinks Alexi needs to retire. So when Georgia needs to get married to get her inheritance, and Alexi needs to marry a Canadian to secure his citizenship, these two team up, and it is honestly one of the hottest books I read this year. The kind of hate to love, enemies to lovers was just so fun and so different from the rest of the series. Stephanie Archer just knows how to write the most amazing, supportive, down bad men, and this one was no different, but it started so differently. I absolutely loved how the dynamic was totally different, because all of the other books in this series, the boys are obsessed. They've been crushing on their girls for years, and like they are just these cinnamon roll characters. Not Alexi. He is this grumpy macho man, this tough guy who ends up picking out all of these beautiful flowers with different meanings for Georgia, and it honestly just gave me so many of these sweetest moments. Also, the bedroom dynamic. This is such a hot book. That is all I will say. You need to read it. It is actually incredible, and it is so, so high up on my list of recommendations when anyone asks me for Hockey Rec. This whole series is just incredible. I absolutely loved how strong the characters were individually, but also how much they supported each other and how many kind of other storylines there were. It wasn't just the romance. You had Alexi's potential retirement, you had George's job, you had everything, and I just loved that. And I also really appreciated how much we saw the happy couples from the rest of the series in this one. They were such a big part of these guys' relationship, and I just loved it. It also left me so, so excited for the next book, which I will be arc reading in January or February, and I'm very, very excited for that one. So the next book is Story of My Life by Lucy Score, which I was lucky to read early thanks to the gorgeous girls at Hodder. This book was absolutely incredible. It was my first top 10 read of the year. I read this in February and absolutely loved it. Like I said earlier, I'm a kind of slow reader, so like 100 pages a day is kind of my max. I was reading 250 plus pages a day with this book. It took me like 2 days to finish, which is unheard of for me because it is such a thick book. Lucy Score does write a chunky romance book, but just like her others, this was a 5-star. I absolutely adored it, and I could not recommend this enough for anyone who loves a kind of small town romance, or anyone who liked Things We Never Got Over and The Christmas Fix and Mr. Fixer Upper. from Lucy, these books just kind of got smushed into one and put in this. It just felt like an amalgamation of all of her other books, and I really, really loved that. So this book follows romance author Hazel, who is behind on deadlines. She's just been kicked out of her apartment by her ex-husband. So she goes and buys a house in this small town in search of a contractor who she thinks is going to inspire her next romance book. Then she hires him to fix up her house and go on some fake dates with her as inspiration for her book. But sparks start to fly, and it was just such a fun read. The town and all of the characters and how kind of quirky they were and how much we got to know them really reminded me of Stars Hollow. So if you like Gilmore Girls, this is the kind of book for you. I absolutely loved it. I feel like it could be a kind of cozy autumn read, just like Gilmore Girls, even though it's kind of set over the summer. I think you could read it any time of year, and I genuinely would recommend it to everyone that loves Lucy Score's other books. I absolutely loved how Hazel is a romance author, and we kind of follow the tropes and everything that she likes to write in this story. And I just think it was so well done. Like, look at those tabs. Clearly, I loved it. So this is the next book on my top 10. Next up is another book that I had an early copy of thanks to Evermore. This is Secret Haven by Catherine Cowles. I was going to jump straight into this one and just kind of read this. I was told by multiple people, no, you need to read the entire series. So I binged the whole series back to back. Would highly recommend. I think you need to read all of the others before you can read this. I don't want to go too much into what it's about because I don't want to spoil any of the other books, but we follow Fallon, who is a social worker, and Kyla, who is this kind of broody tattoo artist, and he finds out that he's got some sisters that he didn't know about, and he needs to get custody of them. So enter Fallon, who is going to marry him, of course, so that they can get custody of these girls. Except these two are foster siblings. Nobody knows that they've been in love with each other since they were 15, 16 years old, and it is just the most angsty, amazing marriage of convenience. It's so well written, and the whole plots from all of the other books and this one, there's suspense, there's all of these storylines that kind of add to the entire romance and just the whole family vibe and found family of these books. And I just absolutely loved every second of reading this. This book made me cry so many times. It was such an emotional read, but it made the happily ever after at the end that much sweeter because all of these characters genuinely deserved the absolute world, and it was such a perfect end to the series. You need to read this if you haven't already. The entire Sparrow Falls series was 4.5+ stars for me. I absolutely loved it. So the next book will come as a surprise to no one. It's a Megan Quinn book. It was Till Summer Do Us Part, again sent to me by the lovely girlies at Hodder. This book was just such a fun summer read. I love Megan Quinn's writing. I just think she's so funny, and the banter and everything between her characters I just love. She's so witty and like hilarious. These books make me laugh out loud, and this was no exception. So this book follows Scotty, who needs a fake husband because she's told everyone at work that she's married so that she can fit in. And when they go to therapy as this married couple, they kind of prove that they might need a bit more therapy. So they get invited to this kind of couples retreat. Little does she know that all of her other co-workers are going to be there. So they then have to fake this marriage for the entire trip. And it's just such a great read because the whole kind of therapy aspect and the retreat, it's just so different to anything I've read and really made it such a refreshing, fun romance book to read. One thing that completely surprised me, because I absolutely love romance books, I will not read a book if it doesn't have a hint of romance. We were halfway through this book and there hadn't been a hint of romance yet, and for some reason, it didn't even bother me. I think because the writing was so good and the whole book was so funny and the characters were great and I loved how they were interacting, it really didn't bother me in the slightest that there hadn't been any romance yet because I knew we'd get there eventually, and I was just kind of enjoying where we were at with these characters. Looking back in my book journal for this year, I wrote that this book at times felt like therapy in the form of a book learning what healthy communication and conflict resolution looks like and what the standards should be like in an equal relationship. And I genuinely feel like because of the whole therapy aspect and the retreat in this book, it did feel like therapy. It honestly felt like it was giving me new perspectives, opening my mind to certain things, and I really, really loved it because it was that kind of emotional read wrapped up in a funny little romance book. And I just think that is a credit to Megan's writing and something she does really well. Next up, we have Holding the Reins by Paisley Hope, which I read in the summer. I took it away with me on holiday and I absolutely adored it. It follows Cece, who falls in love with her brother's best friend, but he moved in with them when they were younger because his parents died. And so he's kind of been brought up as her brother, but they've never seen each other that way. And they fall in love. She starts working for him for the summer, and it's just so fun to read because it was kind of like a just one night thing and then clearly did not end at just one night. Even though the tropes and the plot are kind of common and predictable, it didn't feel that way in this book. It honestly felt fresh and like it had been done in a different way. And I really loved that because some small town romances, country romances can all kind of blur together. And this one did not. This one stood out and I absolutely loved every second of it. One thing I will say about this book is it had some of the best spice that I have read in a while. Like, I absolutely loved this. I was not expecting it. I just thought it was going to be a cutesy little cowboy romance. I was going to enjoy it. I did not see the spice coming, and I'm now very excited to read the rest of the series. I'm considering putting it on my 2026 TBR, and I just adored it. I also absolutely loved the whole Southern family aspect of this and how close everyone was, and I can't wait to read all of their books too. Another book that I took on holiday with me was The Brave and the Reckless by Deland Dyer, which I absolutely loved. It saved me from all of the 4 and 4.5 star reads. It was my first 5-star read on holiday, and it genuinely was such a fun book to read because it follows Ezra, who has dealt with chronic illnesses and overbearing parents her whole life, and she moves to this incredible setting of a country western theme park where her brother's working. So she moves there for the summer, she gets herself a job there, but ends up actually being perfect for a different job in the park. And so she then becomes a character actor in the park in one of the shows, and the lead actor opposite her does not like her at first. They keep butting heads. He thinks she's this kind of privileged rich girl, and it is just so fun to watch them fall in love and fall into bed together because that's where they start. It is so funny. The spice was great because they have a little interlude between their shows. They have about 7 minutes and they make those 7 minutes count during every show. I loved how complex but still likable the characters were because you could kind of forgive any quote unquote bad actions or things that they did slash said because you knew that they were developing as a character and you knew where it had come from and why they were acting the way that they were acting, which I love because there's nothing worse than reading a book and absolutely hating some of the characters or their actions causing you to hate them. But this was not like that. This was so fun and so incredible to watch the characters fall in love over the period of this summer. It was just such a different read to anything that I'd read before. Also, the chronic illness representation was done so well in this book to be such a massive part of the story and shine a light on it and how much of a burden it can be on people's lives. So I absolutely loved that and how it added that extra layer to Ezra as a character. I now need to find more books with the kind of Western theme park setting because this was so fun. And I know that there are more books coming out next year in the series. So I am very, very excited to go back to Bravetown. And the last book that made it into my top 10 reads of 2025 was Fourth Wing. I absolutely adored this series. I hadn't read any fantasy books in quite some time, so this one was intimidating me because they are thick, thick books. And I read them just before Onyx Storm came out so that I could read the whole series that's out so far back to back. And I absolutely loved every second. I'm not going to say what this one's about because I think most people have read it at this point, and if you haven't, I don't want to spoil anything in the other books because I genuinely can't remember what happened in which book. I will say though that I absolutely loved how sassy the dragons are in this book. It was so funny and kind of gave that little bit of comedic relief because this was a heavy book. I sobbed at the end. Someone had said you need to film yourself reading the last kind of 80 pages of this book, and I did. That video will never see the light of day because I cried my heart out. This was so sad at the end. I have cried at the end of every single book. I think she likes to just kind of emotionally wreck us at the end of the books, but I would highly, highly recommend this if you are getting into fantasy or if you just haven't read this series yet. It was so fun and kind of unlike any other fantasy series that I'd read when I read this. So because I love this series so much, I think I want to try and read some more fantasy in 2026, But this was just such a fun reading experience for me because I was also messaging my friends and telling them what I thought because they'd already read it. So they were getting all of my live reactions and it just made it that much more fun. And I put in my book journal that 5 stars didn't feel like enough. I don't know if it was quite a 6 star, but 5 just didn't feel like it did it justice. So that is how much I enjoyed this book. So to recap, my top 10 reads of 2025 were Face Off, Play Along, Caught Up, Gloves Off, Story of My Life, Secret Haven, Till Summer Do Us Part, Holding the Reins, The Brave and the Reckless, and Fourth Wing. So those were all of my top 10 reads for 2025. Thank you so much for watching and supporting me along this journey this year. I have absolutely loved posting a video every single month. It's been so fun to chat with some of you guys and try and build this community a little bit more. So thank you so much. Please subscribe if you're not already and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And I will see you all next year.